Hi everybody, Linda Morrison here from Ageless Goddess and Ageless Business. This is series two of the Art of Listening interview series where I literally get to talk to all types of people in reference to how they have used conscious listening or the art of listening, conscious communication, if you like. There's all different words for it over the years to better their skills, but also advance their own work as well as work with others and get the result, I suppose, at the end of the day. The reason that this series actually came about was because I was watching people be obsessed really by putting out content that was very short form and often I felt didn't hit the mark or the mark that their brand was. So I wanted to go back to the basics, and that's actually talking to people. And the whole art of listening in my very, very short version really is having the person you are speaking to feel as if they have had the experience of being heard. And even if we don't fully understand what they're trying to say in that moment, being curious and open to seeing how it lands. So I'm really, really happy today to be introducing Luke Taylor to you. He's up the road from me in Australia. And he's going to tell us a little bit about what he does and why the art of listening may sort of be relevant to his work. Hi, Luke. How are you going?
Oh, I'm great, thanks, Linda. Good morning, and good morning, everybody.
So tell us about, um, I suppose, a little bit of in a nutshell, your career and how you perhaps use the art of listening to further your own works and projects now.
Yeah, so my first career was a detective. So I was a detective in the New South Wales Police, Sydney-based, for around about 15 years. And in that time, I did a lot of work, did some undercover work, mainly drugs, violent assaults, murders. And the last few years, probably the last 4 years of my career, I needed a complete change. I just felt I wasn't having a great impact, and it was a lot of gangsters killing gangsters, and I was seeing where the greater good was.
Yeah.
And so I went and worked in child protection, sex crimes. So I think children vulnerable and they don't often have a voice. And so it'd be a great way to advocate and do something completely different in that. And I really tested myself, and that is
Yeah.
one of the areas where I really became aware of listening. And my favorite line is not mine, I've pinched from somewhere, is about listening as opposed to just waiting for your turn to speak. And that was really drummed into me when I did my course on child interviewing. And so I've used those lessons and those the practices I've learned from that. I also used in my interviews with offenders, and then when I left the police and got into teaching and other careers, working with adults, it is probably even more important
Yeah.
than working just with kids to let them know you are listening.
Yeah, I've got to say thank you for actually saying that, and also thank you for all that work that you've actually done, that difficult work. Um, I I must say that in the pauses is that's what I have found. In the pauses is where I really find out about people, and we all have had experiences where someone we are talking to is really anticipating what you're going to say next so that they can then say something and then they can just leave. And it's not a good experience, and you can pick it up straight away. And there's an intelligence really in being present with someone, because a 5 minute conversation can tell you so much, as you know. And in this fast-paced world, yeah, I've really appreciated that more than anything. And also, as I went online, realized that it's much more difficult to communicate online. You need to almost be more communicative and a little bit more, you know, get your personality going a little bit more, because there's so much that's dulled down
Yeah.
by the screen, if you like, not being in the room with someone.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that and maybe, yeah, sort of mesh it into what you're doing now and how you're finding that set of skills goes with your work now?
Yeah. So when I left the police, I didn't have a great idea of where I wanted to go next.
Yeah,
And so I now talk about transferable skills. And of course, the greatest one of that is communication. And when we break that down, as you're well aware of, listening, and which applies to coachability, is such an asset to have for anyone looking at changing careers and the kids who I work with in schools moving on. So I went and studied by accident. I just love literature. So I went and started studying literature. I accidentally became a teacher, an English teacher, but I loved that process so much. I went and got a master's of writing. And so as an English teacher, I just love that. And what I was finding, you're right, is that face-to-face communication.
yeah,
And it was massive. So roll forward a few years to COVID, as we were discussing just before we went live on air, and we suddenly had a computer screen between us. Now, as a 51-year-old and as a former detective and a classroom teacher, a screen was foreign to me. Sure, I used a computer, but FaceTiming, Zooming, I'm a person. I'm very personable. I like that face-to-face contact, and I needed that. And so I was starved of that for quite some time. So when COVID was finished, I developed experiential learning and experiential literacy, which is not trying to give the business a plug, but yeah, I do workshops in schools now where I set
right.
crime scenes and get them interactive and hands-on. And we build on our communication as kids and adults and corporates investigate crime scenes. So and I do away with technology. I have technology in the crimes, but no, as I go to schools and places, they say, "Oh, what projectors do you need? What screens?" I said, "None. This is face to face.
Love it. Yeah,
We just have to have that because whereas you and I may struggle to come back to this or develop our systems and our communication better, we've got that generation who that's all they know and they don't know the other side. And
got it.
as you know, once once you leave the house of a morning, you're on a bus, you're on a train, you're in a shop, and you're in a workplace.
Yeah,
And you have to have face to face. So it's
yeah,
vital that we come back to that. And as I said, there's another part to that, and it is actually listening.
yeah. I love that. I actually would like that experience myself. Have you done it for adults?
Yeah, yeah, we do corporate ones
That would be
as well, and
incredible.
they are so funny. The adults are so much funnier. They even do dress ups. We had one up in
Yeah.
Brisbane, a real estate firm, Ray White, AKG, and they said, "Can we dress up?" And they all dressed up. It was Halloween as well, so they all dressed up as famous criminals or police, and it was a lot of fun. But it also the serious side of that is, and the managers come to us afterwards because we do an interview section at the end of the investigation. By the end of the day, we actually, my wife and I, we will role play a couple of the witnesses because they're true crimes as well that we actually worked on,
Fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
and then we see them interviewing. And that's the crux of it because they've got so throughout the day they're seeing physical facts and they're putting together their theories and they put those blinkers on
Got it.
and they become so focused that they stop listening. They
Interesting.
have their thoughts and then that goes that final step about listening. So when they're in an interview, they're so focused on being the hard-ass detective and they go, "Where were you?" And we say, "Let the witness speak," because when you let them speak,
Yeah,
use open-ended questions, you'll discover so much more.
yeah, yeah.
And
You
as
get more
detectives,
information.
yeah, and we're always taught to be, we're not there to build a brief of evidence. We're not there to prove one thing or another as such. We want to be seekers of the truth. And that's such an important thing. And you've got to let that other person speak and give them, yeah, you've got your questions and you have things that you need to focus on.
Yeah,
That is the difficulty with listening and engaging in conversation because whether it's a specific agenda that we have or whether we're just excited and we want to, "Oh, I want to add to that bit," we're so conscious of, and our brains say, "Oh, don't forget that. I want to get that into the conversation
yeah,
because it's so interesting," that we don't hear what's being said. And that's the difficult part of listening in a conversation. It's not always a bad thing. It's not always a negative thing, or we're trying to just really push our agenda in all instances. It's just the fact that it could be pure excitement
yeah. Got it.
that we want to get that out and we stop listening.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, got it. Totally got it. It's very, very interesting that you should actually say that. And I guess at the end of a day as well, when people are tired or the end of a week or whatever's actually going on, that reduces your ability to be able to stay present. Also, and there's so many end applications for getting better at your communication, from your relationships to your parenting skills to, I know my parents now, and they wouldn't like me saying this, but getting elderly now. They don't like me saying that, but it's going in one direction. Is that I need to get better at listening to them and what their needs are, because what I think that they need, you know, so I can care for them is just not what they're actually wanting. So all of those things are terribly important. But I've got to say that experience of that product that you have, that service that you actually have, is incredible, and there's so much to be taken away from that, especially with this very, very high paced world we have. And
Mm.
I noticed this very much after we came out of COVID. Here's a little story, is that if I'd go to a shopping centre, there are lots of young people on their phones communicating, but they're literally just walking into you. So they're not like, bang, oh,
No.
oops, and they don't think anything of it. So they're not aware of what's actually happening right there where their physical bodies happen to be. So being too much cerebral or in the future pacing, because that's usually what you're doing when you're on your phone, let's say, organizing when to see somebody else while you're in a room with somebody else.
Yeah.
It's that was really mind-boggling to me, and I noticed how much worse it had got. That there's no one aware. So I'm always quite spatially aware, often a small female on my own. So I'm watching all the time, and I was often with my kids, which apparently I was in charge of them, Luke, to keep them safe. So I was always very aware when I was out physically. And I'm watching the complete opposite now with human beings. And I think this is very impactful. Also, right down to little babies holding, as soon as they can hold an iPad or a phone in their prams,
Yeah.
that is what they are doing. And yeah, can you speak a little bit into that about how you
Oh,
think
yeah.
that might go for sort of development? We're all talking about it at the moment, and all the Netflix shows are about it. Too much on online business. And by the way, I love online. It's changed my
Oh,
life and changed my children's life, and really, helped to pay all bills and the like and beyond. But there's got to be a balance somehow, and I think the pendulum's now starting to swing.
yeah, and balance is the key word, Linda. And there's no right and wrong, and everyone's different. Everyone has different learning capacities and learning methods. But and I'm the same. I'm old school. So like my daughter, she's 20. She didn't have a phone until she was 15. She's probably too much the other way. I mean, I even went out and bought an Xbox. Not that I play it. I said, here, you've got to have a go at some sort of
Got it?
technology that kids are
Yeah.
into.
Just
Get your head
an
out of
outlier.
the books.
Outlier. Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
she's still not big on that phone incident. But when I see babies, so they're being conditioned from day one, as opposed to, and we talk about listening, listening to the sounds. Like I go out bushwalking on a weekend, and people have earphones in. Can't you hear the bellbirds? You can't.
Yeah.
And it takes away all of those senses, the periphery. You won't know if we're in America, you won't know a bear's about to attack you. You're just so unaware of your surrounds. And when
Yeah.
you start doing that, and you're thinking, okay, my whole world is on that screen, and I don't blame them. Okay, I know the argument saying that it's lazy parenting, and yeah, that's in some ways it's true. But we also get to a point where we have reached a stage where we just need our own intervention, and yeah, that's an easy thing to say. Look, okay, have 5 minutes, just give mum or dad a little bit of peace. I understand that.
Yeah, yeah. We all need all of the tools, but
Yes.
yeah, this human body actually needs to be exercised.
But what gets me, Linda, is the fact that, and as a parent and as a teacher, I see so many people my age. They walk around absolutely deriding our current generation, and I say, just hang on, stop for a minute.
Yeah,
Like, in the last month, I've been to two concerts in Sydney. I went to Luke Combs, I went to Green Day, and the people around me, my age, and every one of them sat there like that,
Yeah. Yeah.
filming the concert.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even see. I was telling people in front, put the phone down, live in the moment, actually experience it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't live behind the camera. And on holidays, everyone is filming. So they go home and they relive their memories from what they recorded. But the reality is, by looking through that lens all the time, that was their actual experience.
Yeah.
So it's like they've
Yeah.
got two screens to look through. They didn't
Yeah.
stand there and look over that magnificent vista, the river, and smell what was around them.
Yeah.
And that's my generation. And then we give it to the kids about being addicted. But every businessman, they live on a phone. They
Yeah.
they do everything with the phone. And we invented the phones and we let them have them.
Mm.
We were the ones that threw a phone at them at 10 years of age. And, well, every other kid's got one, so you should have one as well. And then we didn't monitor it. We let them go into their bedrooms, let them go into those worlds, let them be bullied, let them not think that they can't turn them off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's
That's
us.
it.
So, and then we
Yeah.
blame, we blame
Yeah.
the kids for it. And that really gets me because the
Yeah.
responsibility stops with us.
Yeah. 100% becomes the fear of missing out, doesn't it? Sort of.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit, yeah. So that the episode of Friends comes up when Rachel stopped smoking and she missed out on all the gossip at work, you know. So yeah, you can see, and it's so prevalent, you know. No one wants to be online, but they're on online most of the time. Yeah, I do know that with my son now becoming a chiropractor and having owned chiropractic offices in children's posture and for adults for that matter,
Yeah.
are really being changed, and therefore, you know, the way in which their brains are developing, and lots of things to be more concerned as a parent about. As if we haven't got a list already, but they, you know, they are smart kids if they can have these devices and not be able to teach you how to use them. Me, also in my 50s, Luke, um, they can certainly. Yeah, understand that they are a tool and yeah, where to be able to put them. But then also understand that to get good at anything, even get used to, you know, exercising your body, getting out in nature, exercising your body in whatever sport you choose, because we have so many that we can choose now. That takes a lot of time and effort as well. Whatever, it's always going to be uncomfortable in the beginning, you
And
know.
and and the point about listening that we will always obviously in this keep coming back to and conscious listening is it's the whole theory of narrowcasting as well. So anything on a phone, and to me, when I say listening, I'm talking about being a responder, any way you're getting your messages as well.
Yeah,
So the algorithms in phones, so the moment you start clicking a couple of different articles or listening to a couple of different sites, it's narrowcasted. So that's the only feed that you're getting. And that's conditioning you to not being able to listen to outside noise. And like I said about the interview process that I put my participants through where they're so focused on that one thing. And that's the true damage with it. It's like in the old days, we would read a newspaper and sure, I'm a sport addict, and there were certain things in the paper I liked, and I knew where they were. And as I'm reading the paper, I'm taking in an entire page of that broadsheet, and I'm scanning and I'm looking at things. Oh, look, there's a war in Venezuela. Oh, okay, wow. And things that I wouldn't be aware of. I may not read all of it, but
yeah,
it could actually capture my
yeah,
attention and go, that's outside of my norm. Wow, I wonder if that could, but we don't get that now because we're narrowcasted.
yeah,
We only get that specific feed. And
correct.
that's an
Yeah,
important aspect of listening because otherwise, yeah, we don't get that broad opinion and we only hear and we'll only find what we want to know. And that's a
yeah.
very limited mindset.
I remember many years ago when we just had our children, a good friend of mine who also a chiropractor, she helps to birth babies as well now. And she said to me, life's so much easier when you just hang around people who agree with you. And it was really obvious, you know,
Familiarity breeds contempt. Yeah.
but also really profound. So I watch people now get a different opinion or something they don't like hearing, such as you spoke about before in your previous work. It's unpalatable to their minds that children are hurt and things like that. But So they just block it off, completely just block it off, as opposed to acknowledging um, that this brain, and our perceptions are a muscle that we we need to hear things that we don't agree with at
Mhm.
times because it helps us to learn something new. And if we all, just become robots, then it's going to be a world where we can become pushovers, I think. And the whole pandemic sort of taught us a little bit about that. Anyone who disagreed was, shunned or whatever. But it's important. I think it's just important to continually be open. And it doesn't mean we don't have to agree with it, or it's even good ideas. But I think that's, yeah, very, very important to continue our art of listening. And it just helps us be a much more rounded person as well.
Mm.
But it does hurt to try to make that brain go in places it doesn't want to go.
Yes, yeah, it does. It's very challenging, and yeah, and as we've spoken about, like with my daughter, the second or third year uni, and such a different landscape of people that she knows and meets, and comes back with ideas and thoughts that really challenge me. And I've always prided myself on being so open-minded that,
Yeah.
and I know I've had instances in the last year, particularly with some of the international events that are going on, where she has a different thought process
Yeah.
and I have to give her that space to have that opinion. And it's challenging and it is difficult. And each day
Yeah.
I think to myself, no, you've got to listen. And because I'm a bit of a nerd, I'll always go and research it as well and look deeper and deeper into it. I love that element, and that's where the internet is a great thing, is that
Yeah.
I can go to so many different sources, because I hate to have an opinion if I haven't got information. Uh,
Yes.
but yeah,
Oh, that's it.
it's challenging to keep your mind open and recognize when you are passionate about something.
Mm.
That's probably the time to really keep your mind open and keep your ears open and shut
100%.
your mouth.
Yeah, lot easier to be completely engaged when you're, yeah, right into the subject matter, that's for sure. Luke, can you, and we'll have some show notes below here on our YouTube, but also LinkedIn, about how to get in contact with you and a short bio. But tell us the best way to get in contact with you and how, people might want to work with you. Obviously your crime story. What was it called? Can't
Yeah,
remember.
crime story. Yeah, anyone just has to jump on the website at crimestory.com.au and contact us, or give me a or actually ring me. It's amazing that 99.9% of people, especially schools and teachers, they'll hit that email button and send you an email. And 30 emails later, I said, please pick up the phone. We'll talk like real
Yeah,
people.
it's
And
so
we can
funny, isn't it, Luke? Yeah, I'm a little
cover
bit.
so much more
Yeah,
ground. I know whether people feel obligated if they're ringing a business, but no, you can, please, I love a chat. Just give me a
yeah,
ring. We can cover so much
yeah,
information just with a
100%.
phone call.
I've done that before where I've just eventually gone, I'm losing track of my own emails
Yeah.
and I've picked up the phone and just gone, this is just quicker. Is that okay?
Yeah.
You know? You're absolutely right. Yeah, there you go again with the art of listening. That's a whole other thing that people dropped into without thinking. And I don't mind it, obviously if they're outside of hours and they feel, oh, I don't want to call because it's not inside of business hours, but I'm international. So it's always in or out of somebody's hours. So,
Yeah. And
it's all,
as I say to people, I'm in private industry. If I don't take your call or your email, I'm going to miss out on being able to feed the kids this week. So
that's
I will
it.
get back to you.
That's exactly right. That's, yeah, my reality for years and years, Luke. It's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for being part of series 2 of The Art of Listening. As it's going, people are really enjoying it. It's a beautiful playlist altogether now of over 45 interviews and more coming this week. I'm going to be chit-chatting all week. Um, but also we're bringing together a book compilation as well and allowing people
Lovely.
to be part of that because I became a published, I was a B plus student for English. And I didn't think my sister's wonderful. She did journalism and, marketing and all the rest. Beautiful writer and very, very, but I'm when I published those first books, I couldn't believe it. It just changed my life. But it also made me realize, what are you actually saying? Let's get it into something that's worth keeping people engaged with, and what are you imparting? So that was a pleasure. So I'm really encouraging of people to do that as well, because when they're told that they're not good at something, um, whose opinion is that? Who said that?
Yeah, and if you write for the love of it. Just love it. It's yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much, Luke.
No, thank you, Linda.